Let us now look at the last question that we asked here to determine the point of inflection here. Remember, like I said, this question they can ask you in two ways. The x value at the point of inflection, and the other one they can see you ask you to determine the coordinates of the point of inflections. Now, when they ask you to determine the coordinates of the point of inflection, then it means you need to have the x as well as the y. Right? You remember now we have plus or minus 2 or 3 ways of determining this one here. But of course, I will use the one you remember where you must find the second derivative. Of course, when you find the second derivative, then we take this one from the first derivative here. We are going to have what? 6x plus what? 6x plus 2. And then the other thing which is very important is you must let this to be 0. We have 6x plus 2 there is equals to 0, which is good. And then 6x is equals to minus 2. Divide by 6, divide by 6. Therefore, x is equals to a third. 1 divided by 3. That will be the x value at the point of inflections. Of course, it will be somewhere here on this side. Is that correct? Yeah, it will be somewhere here on this side. Right. How do you determine the corresponding y value? Of course, you know that just take this one and then substitute it where? You substitute it there in the original equation. I can just do it quickly here with the calculator. Of course, that will be a negative 1 divided by 3, or to the exponent of 3. And then from this one, we have plus. And then here we have 1 divided by 3. No, it should be negative. And then, of course, to the exponent of squared, and then minus 5, and then we have 1 divided by 3, negative 1 there, negative 1, and then we also have positive 3. Right, of course, you see that the corresponding y value, of course, will be a positive 128 divided by 27, which in decimal will be 4,7. Which will be 4,7. You can see clearly there, that is 4,7. But what is important, remember you substitute this in the original functions. Right. Of course, boys and girls, here there is another question. Like I said earlier on, remember at the beginning, how do we determine whether a cubic function is a negative or positive without having the equation? Right. Of course, first of all, if you don't have the equation, of course, but you will have the graph, right? I think you will have the graph. If the equation is not there, you will have the graph. Of course, on that graph, we can ask you to determine the equation thereafter. Right? Like I said, now, to determine if the function is negative or positive, you just look at the graph, right? Now, we said if it's positive, then the graph increases first. It means you are going to have the maximum turning points. Is that correct? Immediately when you have a maximum turning point, then it means the graph is positive. Is that correct? Now, if you have a minimum, if you start with the minimum turning points, then your graph is negative. Then, how do we determine this one? Remember, each and every time when you read the graph, we start from the left. You start from the negative side to the positive one. Now, immediately when you start from the left, now the first turning points that you come across there, if it's the maximum, then your graph is positive. But if it's the minimum, then your graph is negative. The graph decreases first. If the graph decreases first, is a what? Is a negative one, and then if it's increased first, then a then of course will be positive. Right. I think boys and girls have responded to your questions very well. It's very important if the equation is not there, but the graph will be there. Just look at the graph. Maximum turning points first, the graph is positive. Minimum turning points first, the graph is negative, right? Boys and girls, remember, like I said earlier on, for all these functions, different types of questions that they can ask you under the functions is you must be able to sketch the functions, which of course is very important. The second one, you must be able to determine the equation of the functions, which of course is very, very important. Boys and girls, of course, I wanted us to look at that one, but we'll look at it later on when you determine the equation of the cubic function. But of course, if you understand how to sketch the cubic functions, then of course you will be able to determine what? You'll be able to determine the equation of a cubic functions. Boys and girls, I hope you've enjoyed the lesson, of course, which was very interesting. I've enjoyed those questions that we've asked. Boys and girls, at the end of the day, they are going to help you. Please make sure that each and every day you practice mathematics. That's the only one way that will make sure that you do well here in mathematics, right? Of course, we'll meet again, boys and girls. Keep on practicing cubic functions as well as other functions as well. Thank you very much.